Good morning, bees. This morning I'm going to just show you and tell you a little bit about our poncho. First of all, I'll give you a little bit of history about it. The poncho came about because we were contacted by a lady who'd been working with a school in Uganda where the children were getting cold on their walk to school, and also in school they were chilly and overnight because obviously their homes don't have any heating. So she asked me to come up with an idea for something they could give them to keep warm. So this is how the poncho came about. So it's a really simple design. It's made, as many of our warm items are, from the Emirates fleece blankets that we are lucky enough to get lots of here in Dubai and the UAE. It's a really nice, simple design. It just has a little cross at the top, which I'll explain a little bit more about. Obviously, you know, the kids can wear it like that, pop their heads through it, and wear it on the way to school to keep warm. The children at this particular school are at a government school. They're not allowed to wear anything over their uniform during the day, but they were allowed to put something over their lap. So once they've taken their poncho off, they are allowed to fold it and wear it over their lap in school to keep them warm. Also, the design is such that it can just be, I've put poppers on this particular one. On other ones, we've actually put buttons on to close them up, but the fleece is actually a little bit difficult to put buttonholes in. So it depends, you know, if you're happy to put buttonholes in, you can put a nice big bright button on there as a bit of a design, or we can put the poppers on, which are really quick and easy. So once they've come home from school, they're going to bed, they're cold, there's no heating in their home. This will open right out. Obviously they can still wear it as a poncho, or they can put it right out and use it as a blanket to keep them warm overnight. And just with this little cross design, once it is flattened, that just sort of closes up and, you know, they haven't got too much of a hole in the blanket. So we'll get on with showing you how to make it. So the first part of the poncho that I'm going to show you is the bib part that we put the cross in the middle of. That's made from one of our printed blankets, Emirates blankets, and it literally is a quarter of the blanket. So all I would say about this, ladies, if you've got any of these blankets to make our ponchos or any other of our items, just check that they are clean before you use them, because at the end of the day, they are children's blankets. And if they've been used, sometimes they do have, you know, something on them. So just pop them through the wash before you make the items, please. So first of all, I'm going to cut with a cutting machine because I'm actually doing a sort of bit of a mass production here. But obviously, just measure out your blanket into quarters. It measures approximately 40 centimetres by 40 centimetres. I'm just going to cut it into 4, as I say, with the shearing machine because I'm cutting a pile of them. So this next stage, I'm going to show you just cutting out the pocket for the poncho. Again, this is the printed Emirates blanket, and basically I've divided it into 6. So what I'm trying to do is have as little waste as possible with this item, okay? So this is divided into 6, so it's basically 40 centimetres by 26 centimetres, approximately, because all of these blankets do vary slightly in their in the dimensions. So again, I'm going to cut it with my cutting machine because I am cutting quite a few. I'm cutting 4 of these blankets into 6 pieces to give us 24 pockets. With the others, I cut 6 blankets into 4 pieces to give us 24 pieces. Again, I'm just trying not to waste anything, so I'm doing it that way so that we make as many ponchos as possible. So just to show you the template for the poncho pocket, I've taken a piece of card measuring 26 centimetres or 10¼ inches approximately, and 40 centimetres by 16 inches. Again, approximately. I say approximately because, like I said, the blankets all are slightly different in dimension. So there's always going to be a little bit of a variable on there. So you've got your square, 26 by 40 centimetres. From the bottom edge, if you measure up on each side, measure up 10 centimetres or 4 inches. And from your top edge, you need to measure in 11 centimetres or just under 4½ inches. And then obviously join those points and cut the corner off on both sides. And that's basically your template for your pocket. I've put this dotted mark around here because the shape of the blankets, the corners are rounded. So some of your pockets will have rounds. So obviously you'll want to match those up on each side, but we'll go to that process when we're overlocking the edges. Okay, so then what you want to do from there is just cut the shape of your template on your pocket. So this next part that I'm going to show you is the extension to the bottom of the poncho, back and front. There's a little extension on the one blanket that we use for the main body. Basically that is a whole blanket divided into 4 pieces. As I say, these blankets do vary in dimension, so if the blanket is a bit short, 4 pieces can be a little bit small. These are just over, on this particular one, this blanket is measuring out at 90 something centimetres, so these are coming up at about 23 centimetres. If it gets much narrower than that, it's a little bit short, so we can divide the blankets into 3 rather than 4 if their dimension is a little bit short, but this one's fine. Now we have it, I'm ready to show you all the components of the poncho and what you will need. Okay, so what I'm just explaining to you now are the components that we need to make one poncho. I've got them in bulk right here because I'm making some sew-at-home kits for our members. But basically what you need is 1 full blanket that will make up the main body, 1 bib section where we put the cross for the head to come through, an extender for the front and the back. So I'm going to have that one like that, with the Emirates badge on. Acknowledge the support that we get from Emirates Airlines. And that will be an extender on the back of that. And a pocket piece. Okay. Now I'm actually going to be making these, as I said, for our members to come and collect as sew-at-home kits. So I'm going to be overlocking around all of these components. This is actually quite thin and quite stretchy, so it stabilizes the fabric if I overlock it, or serge it, as some people call it, right round for the members to come and have it as a sew-at-home kit. So I'll be moving on to that step in a moment, but that basically is what you need for one poncho. So as I mentioned, I'm going to overlock right around these pieces because they are just a little bit of an unstable fabric. So if you've got an overlocker, brilliant. It's an amazing piece of kit if you do enough sewing to justify it, because they're not cheap. There are alternative ways to do edging like this on your ordinary flat machine if you don't have an overlocker. There's loads and loads of videos on YouTube. Have a look at those if you need an alternative to overlocking. So you probably noticed I cut off the other corner on this because obviously this is a quarter of the blanket that we cut earlier, and the edges of the blanket are curved. Obviously the inner edge that we cut wasn't curved, so I've just made a curve on the overlocker so that both edges match up. So when that's on the front of the poncho, it looks nice. Again, for the pocket, I'm going to just overlock all the edges of that and just make it a little bit more stable for when it's Okay, so this next step I'm going to show you is just finishing the preparation of the pocket before it's sewn onto the poncho. So what we're going to do, this here is going to be the open edge where the hands go into the pocket. So I'm just going to turn this edge, finish it off maybe with a zigzag stitch, or you can put a decorative stitch, anything really that's going to make it nice for the kids. So I'm just going to use my flat machine and zigzag along the two edges, the two diagonal edges that make that pocket. So I'll just select my zigzag stitch. Sorry, brain's malfunction. I'm just increasing the width of the zigzag a little bit. Okay, so that's one side done with the zigzag. You can see that. I like to use a contrasting thread, or something that goes with part of the colours in here. So obviously we've got the red in here, and it just makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, so then I'm just going to continue with the next edge. Okay, what I want to show you here is the bib part on the poncho. So, as you can see, this is our piece here, okay? On the back, I've just marked a cross to depict the centre of the bib, okay? And the cross measures 10 centimetres. So this line here is 20 centimetres. There's 10 centimetres from the centre on each of these legs, if you like. Okay, and then the next part is probably the most complicated part of the whole poncho, so that it's really simple. So then we're going to attach it to the main body. Okay, so the main body of this poncho is going to be this red blanket here. So if you imagine, when this is made up, we want this to fall as the front part with the label and the logo the right way up. So for attaching this bib, we're going to turn this over, okay? And what you need is the centre of the blanket, okay? So you can measure it. I'm going to sort of gauge it here. There's kind of the centre of my blanket. I can see because of the fold lines, this blanket has been folded so long. But obviously, measure it. Do whatever you're most comfortable with. So let me just check here. So this side here, this is going to be the front of the poncho. This end here is going to be the back. Now what you need to do, I'm just going to stick a pin in here while I'm talking. There's my centre. Okay. This bib, part. That part is the part we want to fall as the front. So Mr. Hippo there is the right way up, okay? But for now, we need to place them upside down, okay? So let's just line him up. I've got that pin in there, so let me just fold that in half so I know here's my centre here. And let me line this up with the centre of the blanket, which is there. So it's going to be, let me take that pin out now, the wrong side up of the main body blanket, the wrong side up of the bib on top of each other, with this sitting in the centre. I like to just gauge it by, I'm just going to move it over slightly, like that. I stick my hands on and measure it with my hands, you know, and because this fabric moves quite a bit and it's quite stretchy, it's never an absolute exact science. But, and of course you can get your ruler and measure it as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm happy that that's in the centre. Yeah, I'm happy that's in the centre. And then we're just going to pin this on here to keep the pieces together, because the next step will be sewing around this cross. Oh, that pin's blunt. Okay, so we're going to take that back over to the sewing machine. Okay, what we're going to do now is just straight stitch all the way around, like an outline of this cross, staying as close as we can to the cross, but we're going to have to cut in between the stitching. So we don't want it to be so narrow that it's going to cause a problem when we try to cut it. Okay, so close, but not too close. So there we are, we've got our cross outlined in stitching. And we're just gonna, if I can nick the centre like that, get my scissors in. And then, as I say, we're just cutting down carefully. In between those stitches. If there's enough space, just nick an angle cut into the corners. It just, when we turn this over, you'll see the corners are slightly sharper. It won't take much, and you have to be careful not to snip through your stitching, obviously. There we go. So, remove these pins. Hand chopstick. We use these for all sorts here at Rags to Riches. What we're going to do now is turn this round, and the chopstick just serves to push out these corners. Okay. When we turn it through, just be careful, don't get too enthusiastic with your chopstick, or you're likely to push it right through the corner. But it just helps to push it out into a point. Okay, and then you'll see if we turn the, sorry, I've done that the wrong way up, so that's going through now onto the right side of the blanket. So there's our label in front of the blanket. And this is the bib part now, flipped over onto the front. As I explained to you at the very beginning, that's why this cross is sort of, we try to keep that as snug as possible, so that when the kids are wanting to use this as a blanket rather than a poncho, it's not a big hole in there. It sort of closes up as much as it can do anyway. Okay, so we've turned that over. I'm just going to use those pins that I took out the other side just to hold this in place a little bit, because the next step will be to stitch all around here, and it just stabilizes this and finishes it off. So we'll be just doing an outline stitch all the way around again. It's better to start at the back, just for finishing off, so it just looks a little bit neater, so any threads that, you know, end up being there that you're doubling over are at the back, on the back of the poncho rather than showing on the front. Okay, so we'll just as close as you can. Make sure I don't get that piece in. All the way around and outline that whole cross. So that's the cross all outline stitched now. Now we want to attach these outer edges. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those pins in here to keep that in place, and I'm just going to use a zigzag stitch right around the edge. As I said before, this fabric is really stretchy, so it does have a little bit of a mind of its own. So there we've got the completed bib attached to the main body of the poncho. I overlocked it in white, and then I've zigzagged over that in red. I really like that one. It's really quick. So the items that we produce for Rags to Riches, often we have a really, really short lead time to get things out. People just, will call us and say, right, I'm going to Uganda next week. Can I take X many ponchos, for instance? We've got 60 of these to produce that are going out to a school in the next 10 days in Uganda. So, the idea of all of our items is that they're fairly quick and simple to produce, because we're all hobby sewists. So, we're not professional seamstresses or anything. And yeah, so obviously this has just been overlocked and then zigzagged in red. So it picks out the white and the red that's going on in the design. We do try to make the items as lovely as possible, but yeah, as simple and easy to make as we can too. So next step, I'm going to attach the extender pieces to the bottom, the sort of front and the back of the poncho. So I'm going to join the extension piece onto the main body of the poncho here, using my overlocker again. It's just quick, it's easy. As I said, when we're trying to get a lot of these out, this is the quickest route to do it. But, obviously it's really easy to do that on your flat machine too. Now, with these blankets, I've mentioned a few times already, they're often different sizes, and actually this green one's slightly narrower than the red one. But because it is quite a flexible fabric, you can just pull it and make it fit, basically. So here we go. We're going to just join this in, and then we'll have our extensions on the poncho. So there we are. We've got the extensions on the back and front added now. And then the only thing we next need to do is add the little pocket. So what we're going to do is line that up with the bib. So I'm not on the best table here for laying out, but you can see here, I think, best. So yeah, you're lining this up basically with the bib. And what I'm going to do is line that up there. I'm going to flip this over carefully because we're going to sew the back of this pocket here. And one good thing to just remember when you're putting this pocket on is just finish it really well at the beginning and the end of the stitch, because it's going to get, you know, the kids are going to stick their hands in here and walk along with their hands in the pocket, so it is going to get pulled. So just be mindful of that and just make sure you finish that stitch off there. So, along with just the same, we'll just back stitch a couple of times there. Just pop those pins out, bring that back over. Okay, so that's the top of the pocket attached. Now we want to attach the bottom edge. So I'm just going to flatten this out a little bit, hopefully. And I'm going to stick a couple of pins back in here just to hold it for me whilst I'm stitching. Okay, and again, like these, I think I'm going to zigzag right around here. Again, when you start and finish on this pocket edge, just give it a little back stitch just so it's well held for the kids. That basically is our poncho complete, other than putting the poppers on or putting a button on. Poppers or snap fasteners, some people call them. Basically that needs to be done at approximately 10 centimetres in from that top shoulder line. So if you fold your poncho along the median of the cross at the top and measure 10 centimetres in and 20 centimetres down, okay, and that's approximately the right point for either your snap fastener or a button if you want to put, you know, put a buttonhole in. And a nice, some of them we put lovely big decorative buttons on there, but we did find it was a little bit of an issue because of this sort of stretchy and fluffy fabric. It was actually quite hard to get the buttonhole to work properly. So as I say, this request needs to go out fairly quickly. So we've been putting the poppers into these ones. That's all that's left to do. I told you, it's quite an easy design. So I'm just going to demonstrate putting a snap fastener on for you. So I've marked this, as I said, 20 centimetres down from the median line, 10 centimetres in. And if you are on our Dubai team and you're making this poncho for us, and you haven't got a snap fastener attachment machine or popper machine, whatever you call it, by all means make up the poncho, bring it back, and we can put the poppers on here at the hive. So that's absolutely fine to leave it at that stage and bring it back, as long as when you bring them I know that they haven't got the poppers on, so I can put them on. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate that for you. Just find the centerpiece for that. Give it a good press down. And there we are. That's one side of the snap fastener on. Good to go. And then I just need to do the opposite side. Okay, and that will be our complete poncho. So there we have it. That's our completed poncho. I know this has been a long video because I've shown you every single step, from cutting right through to constructing. So that's our completed poncho. These, some of you might recognise, are the little pouches that the kids' blankets, when they are flying with Emirates Airlines, their little blankets come in these pouches and they get a few little games and things like that to entertain them on the flight. So we love being as sustainable as possible at Rags to Riches. So here, this is how we package this this poncho now. Fold it into quarters. Fold it in half again. And then I'm just going to roll it as tightly as possible, because this is, obviously there's a little bit more fabric in here than just one blanket. Not very much, only, you know, the equivalent of just over a blanket and a half. So it's not a lot bigger than the original item was. And then we're just going to stuff it back into the little pouch. And there it is, ready to go off to Uganda next week.